Welcome into my version of the best of beauty for 2024. I did a video like this halfway through the year and I titled it Best Makeup Releases 2024 so far. If you guys have not seen that video and are interested in seeing the products that I talked about in that video, I will link it in the description box. I had 27 things that I talked about, and those are the things that I tried from the beginning of the year up until the halfway point. But now I have 19 more items that I want to go through with you guys. So I'm not going to repeat the stuff that I went through in that video. This is really just to talk about the items that I didn't talk about in that video that I did at the end of what I call quarter two. Again, if you're interested in seeing the stuff that I thought was some of the best releases for the first part of the year, I will link that video in the description box. I have a really good mix of stuff here. I've got some drugstore stuff, I've got some high-end releases, and I have some luxury beauty. I really try and narrow this down to the things that I really truly enjoyed, that I couldn't stop truly reaching for, and that I really think that if you guys haven't had a chance to try them and you have similar preferences as me, you'd be missing out if you guys didn't give them a chance. So I'm just gonna start off how I applied everything to my face. I do show you guys cutaways of everything in application so you can see it. I think that kind of helps. I will also be linking all of these products, including the shades, in the description box in case I skip over a shade or I go over it too quickly. So let's get into it, you guys. We're gonna start off with my favorite base products. I think this one actually really changed the market. It's a primer that I have literally never tested anything like before, and I think does a really good job and is the best at what it's supposed to do in the line. It's the Oil Sucker Extreme Mattifying Alkaline Primer from One Size. I have combo skin and I live in Florida. It's extremely humid. You get super sweaty in the summertime, and there's almost nothing that I can do. Not a primer, not a setting spray, not a powder that can lock my makeup down or keep me really from getting super sweaty or super oily. This was really the first primer that I noticed was actually doing something. You can feel it mattifying and tightening on the skin. I've never had a primer that I've actually felt make a difference on the surface of the skin outside of maybe like a hydrating primer. I thought this was amazing. I love the way that my skin feels. I love the way that it looks. I feel like it's super smoothing. I have not enjoyed his other primers. The Secure the Sweat didn't do a thing for me. I ended up decluttering it. I highly recommend this if you have combo to oily skin. I wouldn't recommend this to anybody with dry skin because it's just a super intense mattification specifically targeted to keeping your oils at bay. So anyway, I highly recommend this. I do not keep very many primers. This was an absolute must for me. I love it. I can't wait to use it again during the summertime. The next primer, and I'm surprised I even have two primers in this video because I'm not a huge primer user, but I really feel like both of these primers made a difference for me personally. And I reach for them a lot, which is saying something because I generally skip over primers. It's just not something that I feel like I need in my routine unless it does a solid difference. So this one is the Easy Blur Primer from Huda Beauty. This is a silicone-free smoothing primer. I feel like it smooths. I feel like it blurs the skin. I don't think it's an overly mattifying primer, and I don't think that it keeps my oils at bay like the one from One Size. It just makes it look super smooth. I will say though, if you pair it with the Easy Blur foundation, it's like 10 times better. I notice a bigger difference with this primer when I'm pairing it with the foundation. So I literally only wear those two products together. I have tried testing them separately and I don't love them as much. I just think they work extremely well together to give you a really blurred finish and effect on the skin. I just think it looks healthy and natural, and it just looks so good close up. It's not just a camera ready kind of full coverage thing. It's really just a medium coverage with a soft focused effect that really looks good in person. So I think this is a true must if you're into a blurring primer. But speaking of the Easy Blur foundation from Huda Beauty, the Natural Airbrush Foundation is what this is called. I have mine in the shade Shortbread, which is 200B, and this has 1.5% niacinamide. So I mentioned it does have just a soft focused effect on the skin. It's kind of powdery when it goes on. It's my preferred formula, which is a super lightweight formula that's really runny that immediately gives you medium coverage. It's like my favorite kind of texture of the actual liquid foundation itself, but just on, it's super healthy looking. Again, beautiful in person, beautiful on camera. It just makes me feel youthful when I wear it. But I will mention again, I like it so much more with the primer than by itself. myself. I will say though, having combo skin, it's not a mattifying foundation, so this doesn't last on me all day. It fades off, you know, halfway through the day, so it's not a foundation that I'm gonna reach for if I want it to last. It's just something that if I want it to look really good in person and make my skin look soft and youthful with medium coverage for a short period of the day, then this is great. I think Huda did a really good job. Honestly, this is my first base product from Huda. I don't think I've tested another primer. I have never tested a concealer. I haven't even tested the color corrector from Huda, but I love this, love it. My all-time favorite foundation launch of this year was the Dior Forever Skin Perfect Foundation Stick. I have mine in the shade 1N. This is freaking fabulous. This is very similar to the Huda in how it literally blurs my skin. It fills in my pores. It is this super soft powder finish on the skin that looks immaculate in person. A couple of times this month I had events to go to and I really wanted to look good in person. I had to wear this. It is so smooth. It makes my skin look like I'm doing something extra to my skin. It just makes my skin look so freaking smooth. The way that this blends in is like seamless. It's like 2 swipes and your face just absorbed it. It's like a beautiful painting, like it was meant to be there. I love the application of this. I love the way this looks. This one lasts longer than the Easy Blur foundation, but not by much. It's just a little bit of a drier stick formula. The Huda has like a little tiny bit of radiance. It's not like a fully matte foundation. This one is a little bit matter, but as far as foundation sticks go, it is not super matte on my skin. It really is just this soft focused effect. And it is truly like a medium buildable coverage. I think you can get full coverage with this. It was just such a beautiful product. And I'm so glad that I really enjoyed this because Dior has had some of my favorite base products in the past, both in foundations and in concealers. And when they reformulated things, I just stopped using it. I just wasn't a fan of the reformulations. I didn't find that they were as long lasting or as beautiful looking on the skin. So when I got this, it was mostly after I had heard other people talk about how good it was. I didn't immediately pick it up just based on something of interest of mine, but I was so glad that I did because this is just absolutely fabulous. And I never thought that I would fall in love with a stick foundation product. I prefer liquid mostly. I just like the way that it goes on. I tend to like the way that those look more, but this isn't your conventional stick, I don't think. It's something special. It's something very different. So if you have combo skin, I think you would really truly enjoy this if you have similar preferences as me. All right, the final Complexion product is a full coverage concealer from CL. It is called the Conceal and Protect with SPF 50 concealer. I have mine in the shade 04N. I like that this is a mineral SPF concealer. I think that's actually pretty cool. I put SPF all over my face, but I would literally take SPF in anything. Like I would put it in my brow products. Like anytime I can add an SPF layer to my face, my neck, my chest, my arms, anywhere, I'm okay with it. The reason I really like this concealer is because I truly believe that it gives me like medium to buildable full coverage with very little product, which is a real, I don't want to say preference of mine, but it's definitely a sticking point. If it's going to be full coverage, I want it to be immensely lightweight, like watery and serumy. And I think even though this has a little bit more hydration and a little bit more stickiness to it, it's not so thick that it sinks into fine lines or looks too heavy. And that's basically all I'm looking for. I don't care if it's full coverage. I really just care how it performs and really how it looks. I would take a medium coverage concealer any day that could be built up or just medium coverage on its own. I don't really like something super duper light. I do like something medium and above, but this was so good for me. And again, I have real criticisms with concealers. Like a lot of people say, oh, these are good, and I hate most of the ones that people really like. So I think it's fair to mention that in this case, that a lot of times the popular concealers on the market that a lot of people love, I personally do not. I do not have a concealer collection that I think mimics a lot of other people's because I just find like the popularity of the concealer market is really just not something that I fall into. So I don't know if this is something that you would really like, but if you have similar preferences to me, I think you might enjoy. Next, and I actually think that I called the concealer the last Complexion product, but I do have a powder. This is the Vanish Airbrush Press Powder in Translucent from Hourglass. This has gotten a lot of negative feedback, I think, in the YouTube community. I have not seen very many people say that they love this powder. I feel like I'm out here by myself loving this powder, quite honestly, the way that I do, enough that I've called it my best of beauty for 2024. I don't think this powder is too heavy at all. For me, who has combo skin and really does prefer a little bit of a heavier powder, most of the people that do not like this powder that have dry skin say that they don't like it. So I think you need to take that for what it is. I think if you do have combo to oily skin, I think something like this is more for us and just works a little bit better. This just smooths out my skin. It makes my skin look super blurred and super mattifying and not heavy, doesn't feel heavy as the day goes on. Every good thing about what a combo skin girly would like in a powder is how I feel about this, and I kept reaching for it all the time because it was one of my favorites. I didn't find a better powder this year. And the only reason I picked this up, very similar to the foundation stick, is because I saw someone review it who had dry skin and say too heavy. And I was like, that's mine. I'm getting in there. I need a too heavy powder. If it's too heavy for you, it's probably great for me. So that's why I got it. And then I'm so glad I did because I love it. Let's move on to the cheek products. I have 2 bronzers and 1 contour, and I truly enjoy all of these. They're all so good, and I think a lot of people like them. I think they're gonna wind up in a lot of people's best of beauty for 2024. So the first one is the Transforming Bronzer from Lancome. This one is in the shade 02 Light, which I actually do think is the lightest shade. I could be wrong, but it was the lightest shade in stores, and I've seen people with like a fairer complexion like me also have the 02 Light. This is just such a beautiful formula. It's soft focus and it's blurring. It's a creamy powder texture. It feels so good going on, and it's not too orange. I think this is truly a bronzer though. It does have some warmth to it. It's not, you know, a straight neutral bronzer, or could be coupled as like a contour. I really do think it has some warmth in it without being orange, and I think it just blends into the skin like perfectly and beautifully. The way you'd want to like sweep a bronzer onto your face to give you warmth and just liven your complexion up in a way that was like sophisticated and easy, that's what this does. Plus the packaging is just really fabulous. I'm such a fan of Lancome products, so much so that I even thought about doing a full face of Lancome and just talking about how much I have loved all of their products in their line. And not a lot of people talk about them when they just talk about like, you know, favorite things from Sephora or anything that's related to like a full face of whatever. There's just so many Lancome products that I like. I don't think enough people talk about them as a whole. All right, the next one was a cream bronzer from Ilia. This is the Sunshift cream bronzer in the shade Ray. This is very different than the Lancome and the next one. This is a cream formula that is a little bit thicker in texture, and it has a metallic finish. It's a little bit tacky, so it sticks to the skin really well. It has much better lasting power than powder bronzer. In this case, I think you have to like the metallic finish, but it's not too heavy. I don't think it's too thick. I think you can go light with this. I think it just, again, livens up the complexion. It looks very natural. It's such an easy formula to work with. That's the thing. It's just not overly pigmented, and it gives that nice effect, but it's just not overdone. So the application of it is beautiful and the finish of it is beautiful. So it's just an enjoyable product to use. And I personally like kind of a metallic finish. It's what I would consider like the equivalent of bronzing drops. It's just in a cream, but this is even lighter than what bronzing drops in my experience are. They're more pigmented than this is just lighter. So it's kind of an alternative option if you don't like the bronzing drops, but you wanted to get the effect that everybody seems to enjoy from bronzing drops. I think this is a good option. All right, the final one is a contour, and again, it is from Dior. This is the Skin Contour in 01 Light. I again did not pick this up immediately because I really have been trying to scale back my bronzers and contours in my collection, but also like in purchasing them, because I'm so frequently disappointed in the shade that I feel like I'm waiting for people to review it before I pick it up, even though, you know, I do try and pick things up and review them for you guys in case you have similar preferences as me, but I am trying to make smarter decisions, so I didn't pick this up immediately. And then I saw other people review it. It's gorgeous. It's an absolutely perfect neutral tone. They did not screw up what they call a contour. They didn't call it a bronzer slash contour and come out with 10 different shades. It's truly a contour product. Also, the formula is fabulous. It's creamy, but not too creamy. It's stiff, but not too stiff. It's a perfect balance for a stick formula. Picks up so easily, not overly pigmented, blends seamlessly into the skin, and has good lasting power. Box checked, box checked, box checked. The only bad thing about it is the price point, really, but it's Dior. So for Dior, it's not terrible. Also, you guys, can I just mention that they did a bomb job for products coming out very similar? This is a glossy finish in the foundation stick. The bronzer, or contour rather, here I am calling it a bronzer, is in a matte finish. So you're not mixing the products up. You really can't tell which one is which, so long as you can remember between matte and glossy finish, but just thought I would mention that. If you guys know me, you know I'm gonna have numerous blush products in today's video. We're probably all gonna have a ton of blush products because there was still a ton of blush releases, and there was even more in the liquid category than I think we've seen in previous years. And I tried so freaking many. So let's actually go over all of the liquid ones first. And then I have one powder and then one cream. So the first one, I have talked about this in so many videos telling you guys how much I love this. And this is the second shade. This is the Unreal Liquid Blush from Hourglass. This one is in the shade Scene. I had vision. It was a little too terracotta for me, even though it calls itself a true rose. So I picked this one up and it's so much more pink. This blush is just fabulous. It's a liquid that gains texture when you put it on the back of your hand and you start moving the product around. It's like, it becomes a cream all of a sudden. Like somehow it just becomes less emollient really. And you can see how opaque it is. For something that comes out like on a drop style, you just wouldn't think that it would be that emollient. But then I kind of worry that I'm gonna pick up too much product and deposit it onto my skin and just look crazy. But then it like blends in a really glossy way and just looks super natural. From start to finish, this product is amazing. It's so much different than a lot of my other blush formulas. The only thing I hate about this is that you push it from the bottom to get the product to come out. And if you have nails on at all, it's almost impossible. I was using my knuckle to push this product out onto the back of my hand. Using my finger is really hard, so I was like using my thumb, but then I have really big hands, and so it kind of takes up when the lid's off, it kind of takes up the whole blush. I would say that the applicator is the worst part about it. Otherwise, I liked it so much I was like, okay, I don't love this shade. You need to go and spend your money on a shade that you really do like because it was such an enjoyable formula. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend this. It deservedly landed here. I would pick up more shades. This next one, I'm surprised to be talking about in my Best of Beauty for 2024 because I haven't tried a ton of new releases from this brand in recent past, but also have not loved a lot of the stuff that they've come out with recently. So this is from ColourPop. You might have guessed it if you know me. This one is in Super Shy and it's the Weightless Liquid Blush. So different than all the other liquid blushes in my collection that are like in this kind of packaging with the doe foot applicator. So when it called itself Weightless Liquid Blush, I still thought that it was going to come out super pigmented, very opaque, something that you were going to want to really tap off with a brush and be careful how much you put onto your cheeks. But this is a more sheer formula. This is more liquidy than cream when it goes on. It doesn't have a whole lot of texture. It blends in perfectly. It's glossy and shiny and all that stuff. I don't feel like it fades off super fast. Like it's actually a truly beautiful, glossy, kind of like medium coverage formula. It's not too much, not too pigmented at all. Quite different than the Rare Beauty ones, quite different than the Juvia's Place ones, quite different than the Moira Beauty ones. Very different, and I just prefer this. This is just something that I'm loving so much more lately. A really juicy, youthful cheek that isn't super intense. Last year or year before, all I wanted was like super pigmented blushes, but I think these are just more flattering at the current moment. They're probably kind of trendy too, but if they're not, they're just really what I'm into. So if you like that kind of stuff, I really think that this is a nice formula. Again, from start to finish, the application is just enjoyable. That's really what it comes down to. And the finish is gorgeous. All right, the last liquid blush, these ones again come from the drugstore as I'm considering ColourPop drugstore. These are the Lumi Lay Liquid Blush from L'Oreal. So I tried pretty much all the drugstore liquid blushes that came out. These ones were my favorite and I kept reaching for these, but only one shade, and I will tell you why. So some of them have different finishes. Some are metallic, which I think they call like shimmery or something like that. And then some of them are pretty matte. I wouldn't say that they're flat matte, like they're super dry looking, but they don't have shimmer or metallic finish to them. So the 3 shades that I have, the red one is in the shade Glowy True Rose. The other 2 shades arguably are too similar. I have a Dewy Rich Coral and a Dewy Worth It. So the dewy ones, they have a little bit of dewiness and glossiness, and they're nice. I do like them, but I really enjoy the Glowy True Rose. It's a different formula. Because it's metallic, it's more emollient. The other 2, like I said, are just a little bit drier. They're more like a cream formula than a liquid, but they all buff in well. I personally love the finish of the glowy versions of these better. They're almost metallic, but they don't emphasize texture on your cheeks. They're not overly pigmented. You really do have to build these up if you really want them to show up on the cheeks. I feel like that's what I'm looking for. I want buildability. If you can build but still blend perfectly, I'm like almost really likely to really like the formula. I like the way these look, and they have way better lasting power than all the other ones that I've been talking about so far in terms of like the blush, and even the ones upcoming, except maybe the powder blush. These just have a really good lasting power. So I don't know, I highly recommend these. If you guys like a dewy finish and you don't like a metallic one, I still recommend the dewy finished ones. All right, some blush balms and some dupes. These were from Moira Beauty. I have 2 shades here. The one that's more pink is in the shade Talk to Me, and then the peachier shade, arguably again they kind of look similar I think when I swatch them, is in Dreamer. So these are a dupe for the Merit blush balms. These are called the soft blush balms. These are a fraction of the price. I want to say these are $9 a piece, maybe $8.50. That's usually the price range for Moira Beauty. I really did not like the Merit blush balms. Everyone loved them when they came out last year. They just were not pigmented enough for me. I found that they faded off super fast, and also they barely showed up, and that was not something that I was into last year at all. I feel like now I'm much more into that. So the ones that I held on to, I'm glad that I did, because I've been pulling them back out and using them and enjoying them more this year. But all my criticisms of those blush balms, Moira came in and fixed it for me. So these are more pigmented, they last longer, but they're still super easy to blend in, and they give you a soft, glistening, glowy little finish. I love them. I think they look fresh on the cheeks. Again, just more pigmented than the Merit ones, and they last longer. The 2 main criticisms I had of those blush balms, Moira came in, gave them everything that they were good at, plus also addressed the 2 things that I think the Merit ones didn't do. So I highly recommend these over the Merit ones, and even though I'm enjoying the Merit ones now, I still enjoy these better. And again, they're a fraction of the cost. Like, how could you beat that? So if you liked those, check these out. All right, another cream one here is from Haus Labs. These are called the Color Fuse Glassy Blush Balms. I have such a hard time saying that. This one is in Glassy Palmello. This I think you have to like if you have a certain preference. These are glassy. If you want your cheeks to freaking shine, there's nothing else that came out this year quite like it. The Kaja Dewy bar that I liked, that also wound up in my Best of Beauty for 2024, very similar, but not as glassy as this. The ones from last year that came out from Pat McGrath, the blush sticks, also very glassy. I don't think they're as glassy as this one is. I just have been loving a glassy cheek. Okay, just something very glowy, something very youthful, just really bringing the radiance to the tops of the cheeks. I'm in love. I love this color too. I think it's kind of like a peachy pink, but also very angelic and very bright. Something about it I just really enjoy on my fair skin. The best thing is I love the way this blends in. It's decently pigmented, maybe even a lot pigmented, but it's super blendable, but it's also super buildable. It's an amazing formula if you just love that glossy finish. If you guys watch the application of this, I just feel like it speaks for itself. So anyway, if you like that look, these are honestly great. I would get another shade in that. All right, down to my powder blushes. I really enjoyed these from Fenty Beauty. These were the Fenty Cheeks Suede Powder Blush. The Bacon Cakes one is the more nude shade, and the pink one is Petal Poppin'. I thought these were fabulous. This is a soft, velvety suede formula powder blush. I don't have anything quite as velvety suede to the touch as these in powder form, and they seem like they'd be really hard pressed, but you guys watch me apply this. I pick up so much product on a flat kabuki brush. You do not need a ton of product here. It picks up perfectly well, but it buffs out great. If you want to take some of it back, I feel like you can. You can also go super light with these. They last pretty much all day on my cheeks. I think these are great. I have two shades that aren't shimmery. I've been wanting to get a shade that was, but I hear from you guys that it has glitter in it. I don't have two shades with glitter. Mine are basically just matte. They might have a little bit of sheen, but no glitter or sparkle in them. So I can say Bacon Cakes is such a beautiful and unique shade in my collection. It's a nude and it's not too warm. It's like a neutral nude, but it's super flattering, I think, on fair skin if I'm looking for a nude. Anyway, gorgeous, like gorgeous finish, gorgeous application. Everything is gorgeous. Again, I'll just let my cutaways kind of speak for themselves, I think. All right, guys, we are on to highlighters, and I only have 3 highlighters. I say only, maybe that's a lot. I don't know. Anyway, let's go over the first one, which is a cream. It is from Ilia. It's like the companion to the bronzer because these came out at exactly the same time. This is the Light Shift Cream Highlight in the shade Glint. I love these again because of everything I said about the bronzer, that they're such an easy formula to work with. They're creamy, but they're a little bit more stiff. What's really good about this is it just looks very natural on the skin and it sinks in with the cream blush or the powder blush really nicely. It doesn't lift anything. It's such an awesome texture that doesn't emphasize texture. I think it's just a believable product, very believable on the cheeks. And I think it has good lasting power because it's kind of that thicker, not stickier, but like tackier, thicker cream formula. Anyway, I don't know. I'll let the cutaway again speak for itself here. I highly enjoyed both of these releases from Ilia, and I've maybe tried 3 or 4 things from Ilia altogether. So not a ton of products. Haven't had a huge interest in getting more into Ilia, but I highly recommend both of the bronzer and highlighter. A liquid formula that came out in the earlier part of the year, but I didn't test it right away. I think I didn't test it until after summertime because it had such glowing reviews. It's the Forever Glow Maximizer from Dior, and I picked up the shade Pink. These are just so good. Spectacular highlighter, long wear, 24-hour hydration. They just, again, they're super believable. These are liquid, but they feel like a cream because they're just a little bit thicker in texture. They're not super runny or emollient. They have that good like stick-to-itiveness and viscosity that I love to see in a liquid product. They're not too intense. They're a little bit mild. You can start out super sheer with these, but you can build them up. One thing that I love about this is that I draw it directly onto the cheeks. I find it even applies better when you do that. I think that if you pick it up with a sponge, you have to pick up a ton of product and probably more than you want to. But if you apply this directly to the cheeks on top of anything, doesn't matter, powder or cream, it buffs out perfectly with a sponge or a brush without lifting anything. That's part of why I think a lot of people really enjoyed this. Not just the finish, that the formula performed so well. You know what? I just realized I have 3 Dior things in here. So I don't know. Dior did a spectacular job this year. All right, one final highlighter, and it is luxury. It's the Gucci Glow highlighter, and this one is in Opal Pink. I started out with Opal Pink. I feel like there's a lot of different shades in this line, and people are picking shades that they didn't necessarily love. But when I brought this home and I put it on, fell in love instantly. It's that really soft putty formula that's super intense. It's nice and icy. Cali Ray has a highlighter that probably wound up in my Best of Beauty for last year that's really similar. I am just a fan of putty highlighters in general. There's no exception to this. The Multi-Use Silky Illuminator Powder. I mean, if there was ever a name that describes what this formula is, that would really be it. It's a silky powder formula. It's so good. And it's pretty intense. I don't know if you can dial this back too much. You might want to just barely tap your brush in and like give it a good sweep across the cheeks. Otherwise, this is your standard super intense highlighter. And that's personally what I love. But again, it's an uncomplicated formula. It's the best thing about it. It's just super blendable. It blends in seamlessly with everything that you put on top of it. And it's decent lasting power. It's not something that just like slips off, runs off of the face immediately. It's a high price point, but I feel like Gucci's another luxury brand that's really been killing it with their releases. Powders, powder blushes. Like, I'm definitely excited to see what they do in 2025. The last 2 products I have are in the lip category. And I think that's really good. I'm very picky when it comes to, I think a lip product is not only unique, but it matches like a price point that I think makes it a really good product. And I'm pretty picky about lip products in general. And it's probably the single category that I have the most products of, maybe behind blush. So having said all that, only having 2 products is because I really sat and thought which ones were really my favorites that I thought about, that I kept reaching for. So there you go. Hopefully that helps you or tells you something. So the first one was the Fenty Beauty Gloss Balm Stick. This one is in the shade Is It Fussy 04. I think these are fabulous. Even though they're similar to other things that we have on the market, I still think they have a little bit of distinction to them. I think that they're very similar to like the YSL Candy Glazes, but I feel like these are more pigmented. They fill in the lip lines beautifully. It's such a glossy finish while still having good opacity. I would say the worst part about these sticks is that they just don't last that long. They're very, very creamy, and so they tend to slip off pretty easily. They just don't have that tiny bit of stickiness to them. I mean, even the YSLs are like that, but these are less expensive than the YSL. I like them. Down to packaging, down to opacity, down to the way they look on the lips. They're really flattering because again, they just fill in my lip lines. They really just make my lips look super smooth. All right, the very final product is the Butter Bliss Lip Balm from Moira Beauty. This one is in the shade Petal Pop. The reason I put this in here, there's a couple of reasons, but primarily it's because we saw so many balm releases in 2024, and so many of them were super viral and also super high price point, and some of them came out just for the sake of being flavored, but a lot of them seemed very similar. Moira came out with one, as they do, that is duping a lot of the balms that are out there now that were going super viral. They have great packaging. I love the way that this applicator hugs the lips and deposits the product. It's not sticky or goopy. It has good lasting power. Again, I feel like it's a formula that does help to kind of fill in the lip lines. It has good pigmentation. Like everything about this reminds me a lot of the high-end balms that we saw drop this year, like Summer Fridays. Come on. Those are like $24 a piece. Moira came out with a Butter Bliss lip balm for $8.50. It's gotta go to Moira. It's a comparable formula. I have heard you guys or some people say that they smell like kids' cough syrup. Mine, Petal Pop, I mean, I might not be sensitive to it. It has a sweet smell, but it smells like candy, not floral or like kids' cough syrup. That would be the only downside that I could see to this, is that some people have complained about that, but I personally didn't experience it. So I think for $8.50 and the way that these look on the lips and the way they apply and perform and all that, I feel like they need to go in this video. Because quite frankly, I'm tired of spending like, $25 to $48 for lip products when I feel very similarly $8.50 lip products. Okay, there, I said it. And that be it, you guys. That is everything that I would consider the best makeup releases of 2024 for the remainder of the year. So anywhere from July 1st to the end of the year of all the stuff that I tried. I always love to hear what you guys think in the comments below of the stuff that you tried, or how you feel about some of the stuff that I brought into the Best of Beauty for 2024. I will be doing the Worst of Beauty for 2024 upcoming, so if you guys are interested, please hit that subscribe button so you can stick around. I'm out of here for today, you guys, and I hope to catch you all in my next video. Bye, guys.